All right. Okay. Hey, everybody. It's Dave coming to you from the Hobo Dojo and Jason coming to you from whatever that place is.
His garage.
The civil service porch.
The office, as I like to call it.
The office. I should probably bring mine in just a wee bit so our heads are roughly the same size. Well, today's the day, brother.
Man, I didn't think I'd be as anxious about it as I am, but I'm pretty anxious today.
Yeah, and anxious in the bad way, not in, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, right. I know. It's.
Do you have a gut feeling?
I mean, from what I started to see today, with they're not letting Republican poll workers in polling stations in Philadelphia. They're putting big signs up that say Biden so and so. Someone's like, this is how you should vote today at the polling stations in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania, like that kind of stuff. They're doing that. That means there's some people who aren't decided, who don't know, or they're actively going, no, Trump is a racist. I promise. Please vote for Biden. You need to vote for Biden. So, man, I don't know if it. You watch the rallies and you see those big numbers. You go, it has to be a landslide, and then you watch the news and you go, I don't know, man.
Well, I've been using the sort of Grateful Dead metaphor here with friends over the last couple of weeks, and like the Grateful Dead, they always played to huge crowds, but they never had a #1 record, and they only cracked the top 40 one time in like a 30-year career. But Grateful Dead fans would, hey man, the Grateful Dead's coming to town. Hey, where are they? Down at the sports arena? Oh no, they're they're up in Michigan. We're only in Dayton, Ohio. So let's go. They would always go 400 miles to see the Dead, and Trump fans will do that too. So if you see he's at an airport in Pennsylvania, and you think, oh my God, there's like 50-some thousand people here. Well, they came from the whole region because they want to go hang out with the other Trump people. So it can be a little bit misleading, in the same way that absolutely nobody showing up for Biden is an indicator of how many people will vote for Biden. Because, well, like did you see that post that I did a little while ago? Let me just read it. What I said was, because I think this is worth talking about a little bit. The race is about Trump the beloved versus Trump the hated. He's essentially running against himself. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I mean, no one's voting for Biden. They're either voting for Trump or they're voting against Trump. Like there's 5% of people maybe voting for Biden because they're old time Democrats that go like, I remember that guy. He's a good guy, I think. But it's the majority is voting for or against Trump.
Absolutely. So, I mean, on both sides of the thing, it's all about reaction to Trump. And I haven't had any luck at all getting anybody who says they're voting for Biden to explain to me why.
Well, they got no reason. Well, we know the reason, and they know the reason, and they know we know. It's about hating Trump. I saw a drummer friend of mine today post something this morning on Facebook like, today's the day we vote this MFer out. You know what I mean? Like, today's the day we that's all it is about. He didn't say anything like, today's the day we vote for Joe Biden. Today's the day we bring Democrats back. It was today's the day this MFer is gone.
It's so weird. And they are the party, as we always comment, the tolerance party is, they're not going to put up with you. I think if people like us conservatives, I have no problem saying that I hate somebody. If I actually hate somebody, I go, fuck that guy. I hate that guy. I should, I'll have to bleep that F-bomb out. And then I don't think about the guy ever again. It's just like, okay, block him, unfriend him, tell him to go away, whatever it is. And I go on with my life. I cycle through whatever hatred I feel in about 10 minutes release it, go ahead and be angry and say, you know, flip them off or whatever, yell at them, and then I don't think about it anymore. But
Yeah.
on the left, there's this idea that they are the anti-hatred people, they're the gentle people, and they bottle this stuff up, and finally now this one man has allowed them to let all their monkey hatred out. And oh my God, they had no idea how much fun that was. They had no idea how to be free and to be able to openly hate. It's just been like a vacation for them from their own phoniness.
Yeah. Well, because they've been faking it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we got, you know, all these businesses boarding up their windows, boarding up their doors all across cities in America. And they're not doing it because they're afraid a Trump rally is going to go awry. They're doing it because they're afraid Biden's going to lose. And even if he wins, they're afraid. But they're not afraid of Trump supporters doing anything. They're afraid of the same group of people who's been doing it all year. And that's the tolerant left. That's the people we're supposed to say, oh, they care about the environment. They care about us. They care about the welfare of the world. Yeah, right.
Let me just really quickly share a screen here so our people can see this. Let me see if I can pop that up. So this is in downtown LA, guys. Let me see how this, I wasn't at the picture I thought I was at to start with.
But we're open.
So right here, I was parked my van was right over next to this CVS thing. And what I had done, Jason, was I'd gone down to meet with a woman who is one of the leaders in the Braver Angels thing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's all about trying to get Democrats and Republicans to sit down and discuss the differences between them and see if they can kind of establish each other's humanity. Look at this little Korean restaurant. We're open. No, really. No, we're open. Please come in. This guy's, I talked to this guy a little bit, and they don't really know why they're doing it. They're reluctant to say. You know, I asked, well, who are you afraid of? And, oh, I don't know. Well, it's workmen doing the putting this
right.
up.
The day laborer's like, I don't know. Someone said they'll pay me $20 an hour to board these windows up.
That's it. But all of this, guys, is within a 2-block radius of the hotel where I met with this woman. So I didn't go looking all over the city to find these pictures. I took these pictures on foot. Mm-hmm. And it was this is the only one I took from my car right when I was leaving. So let me just kill the screen share here.
No, that's crazy.
That's just one small little walking distance around Olympic and Broadway. And it's not as if it's the most high-end part of LA. So I have no idea how many how many pieces of plywood are up in the cities. I mean, how'd you like to be in the plywood industry right now? It's like you just made 5 years worth of sales.
Well, I had a colleague the other day, yesterday actually, text me and say, what do you think? You think there's going to be some violence tomorrow night, tomorrow or the next day or so on? And I said, probably. And he says, from who?
I know.
And it's like, where are you getting this?
The last time and the time before.
I know that's the thing. Another friend of mine said, was there violence on day one of the Trump administration? And I said, yes, literally. There was. There's video all over. We watched it all through Washington, D.C. They were in the streets, busting windows, all that stuff.
That was that. I remember posting that at some point, and it was later on, but posting that there was people sitting in a Starbucks, and people smashed the window of the Starbucks. This was on inauguration morning, and the window crashes down, and you see a guy hiding behind his table. He's just trying to have a cup of coffee, for Christ's sake.
Right.
And Antifa breaks the windows out. I mean, that was not. Why would pro-Trumpers be rioting? He was down the street being sworn in.
Right.
That was a riot in the morning. That's how much these people hate him. They'll set the alarm clock and get up and riot.
Right. And they're going to do it again. And they're going to do it regardless who wins. But if this drags out for a few days because they're counting absentee ballots or mail-in voting, all that stuff, it's gonna last. It's gonna be Trump's trying to cheat, even though we've already seen evidence today of polling stations cheating in Philadelphia, like I said earlier. But it's going to be Trump's trying to cheat, Trump's trying to do this, and they're going to be out in the streets and they're going to be mad and angry, and it ain't going to get any better. Even if Joe wins, that group is still going to be out there pushing, trying to push that far left ideology. And it's, yeah, I feel like we've kind of come across the hill. Like, life was good in America, and are we starting to go downhill, or can we save it and start going back uphill? I don't know.
Yeah, can we make America great again? And this is one of the interesting things now, is that Trump once again, make America great again, makes sense. For a while there, you thought, well, I have to say keep America great, but then what am I going to put on my hat? CAG,
Yeah.
But now suddenly that great slogan makes sense again, because we did go down into this thing through no fault of Trump's. Everyone's blaming it on Trump. I think it'll someday soon, if Biden wins soon, it'll be called the Trump pandemic. It'll be called the Trump recession. It'll be called, all these things will be blamed directly on Trump. But nevertheless, we are in a period where we do have to rebuild. And there's a strong reason why somebody might want to say, well, I really don't like Trump all that much. I can't stand his braggadocio or whatever that bothers them. But he did rebuild this economy once. And Joe Biden has never been in a position to even have any effect on an economy other than with Barack Obama, when we had the slowest, most painful, gradual recovery in American history.
Yeah. Well, I think if Joe Biden wins, it's going to be 4 years. If he even is in office for 4 years, it's going to be 4 years of Trump ruined this economy because he mishandled COVID, and we're still feeling the effects of that 4 years later. Another 100,000 people died of COVID, but that's because Trump didn't get ahead of COVID like he was supposed to. It's going to be a nonstop Trump for 4 years.
Right.
And if Biden wins, when Kamala's running in 2024, it's going to be, we're still trying to recover from the worst president in the history of the world, and blah, blah, blah.
Everything will be about Trump. Even if it's a Biden presidency, everything will be about Trump for a good long time. I think you're right about that. I was wondering about something this morning, when I just did a little bit of driving around this morning. And I was wondering if, when you're driving around for your job, are you noticing that in the working class neighborhoods, there are no signs for Biden? Because I've noticed that. I've noticed in the upper end neighborhoods, like when I hike from here and go off in the distance toward the golf course, the houses are, I'm going to see many, many more Trump signs. But when I'm in a working class neighborhood, what I'm seeing is signs for local politicians, school board, things like that, and no Biden signs whatsoever. I'm not seeing any Trump signs either. But that would be socially dangerous. If there's,
you don't want to you can't put that in front of your house, right? Because someone's going to come by and throw eggs at your house or whatever.
Exactly.
But when I drive down the 14 freeway, there's a big like boom lift. It's got a big flag for Trump. There's a big fence up on the hill that's got a Trump flag, and so on. I'm seeing a few Biden signs here and there, but I get to talk to a lot of people, and yeah, the working class, they're more like, oh, I like that cup.
Like that cup?
Yeah, I like that cup.
Hey, maybe I'll send you one for Christmas. I hear they make great stocking stuffers. So the boom trunk is got a big sign?
Yeah, but as far as the working class go, I think mostly everybody is more on the Trump side. And check this out. I had a friend. He was working. He's Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
He has to go to someone's house. He walks in the door, and looks up, he says, there's a big Trump flag on the wall. And the guy says, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I forgot you were coming today," and starts taking it off the wall. That's how self-conscious people are about supporting Trump. In his own house, he's invited someone over to do some work for him.
Right.
And he's afraid he's going to offend this guy because he's Hispanic.
But this also says, it's strangely, it says something about a Trump voter. You might think, well, don't be such a chicken shit. I'll bleep that out.
Sure you will.
But by the same token, it says something about Trump voters that they are so considerate of the other side that
Right.
they would say, oh, here's a Hispanic guy. Chances are he's heard the stories about Trump and thinks he's a bad guy. Now he's going to feel in some way that he's not among friends here. I'm sorry, man, I'll take the sign down so that you will feel like you're among friends here. These are
Right.
not the kinds of people, a person that would take his own sign down in his own house to guard the feelings of a workman is not a
Mhm.
bigot, is not a mean person, and is not a narcissist politically like Democrats tend to be, because they're the ones that speak at the top of their lungs in a public place about what
Right.
their ideas are, and all the rest of us, we're doing the drug dealer voice over there when we talk. I meet with Zane, and we'll be at a coffee house somewhere having breakfast, and I'll say, so what do you think about Trump? All of a sudden, it's like we're making a drug deal, or we're working for the CIA or something. And
You look around first, like you all like,
all conservatives in LA do that automatically. They automatically lower their voice.
well, I think it's happening less. It maybe not closer to the election, but I think it was happening less, where it seems like more people were out in front of it and going like, oh, you know what? But yeah, with the threat of violence and the threat of unrest and all that stuff, no one's going to put the sign up. Like I said, this guy's in his house gonna take it down. My friend who's Hispanic was like, "Oh no, I'm supporting Trump." He's like, "No, leave it up." He's like, "Oh, cool, man." The guy was all like, excited about it, he said. But no, that's where we're at, man. Afraid to be in your own house with your own Trump sign because of how they've demonized. And it's not just about demonization, it's also about the threat. Is this Hispanic guy going to be one of those guys you've seen on TV? Is he going to be one of those guys that are out there causing violence, causing trouble? Because there is nothing happening the other way. No Biden guy's going to take down his Biden sign because he's afraid you're going to walk in and go like, "What, Joe Biden? I'm punching you in the face." Like that's never going to happen.
I mean,
Right.
I've got that post up where I posted those pictures I just showed you guys, and I did a bit of a rant on there where I was taking people to task for not taking their radical elements to task, for allowing Democrats in Democrat cities, allowing Democrats to ruin the businesses of other Democrats. I mean, you look at the damage that was done in Santa Monica, and I did that video about Santa Monica. You can't find a Republican in Santa Monica. All the business owners, they're all Democrats. Everybody there is a Democrat. And the rioters were coming from the adjacent all Democrats cities of Compton or wherever, the Maxine Water districts, coming in to break windows and take all the Nikes. I'm sorry, they're just Democrats victimizing other Democrats and trying to blame it all on Trump. And nobody will call it out. And they keep saying, well, it could be the alt-right. Okay, show me the footage of the alt-right breaking windows and taking Nikes. Show me the footage of anybody, if you show me a riot, like we said before, every person in that picture, the guy holding the BLM sign, the guy holding the defund the police sign, all of those people are Democrats. Now, some of them are hard left Democrats who would really rather vote for the Communist Party if it was viable.
Yeah.
But the Democrats definitely consider them part of their voting base.
In Santa Monica, those Democrats signed a petition to get the chief of police to resign. The chief of police had to resign in Santa Monica. And those are Democrats signing because like you said, Republicans don't live there. All right. And that's the kind of stuff that I say, how does Trump not win in a landslide? How do these Democrats in Santa Monica who signed this petition to get him out, or her, I don't even know if it's a him or her, to get them out, how do they not go, you know what? we have to vote Trump to stop this nonsense. But it's going to be the other way. They're going to vote Biden thinking Biden, I guess they're going to somehow stop it, or they're going to be happy that their guy won, so they're not going to riot. I don't know.
Somebody made on that post that I did, that rant that I do where I posted the pictures that I just showed everybody. Somebody had said, this reminds me of the way Muslims won't call out other Muslims. And it's sort of in that same sense, because it's so much part of your identity that you can't, it's very hard for you to call out the more dangerous elements, especially if they're dangerous enough that they might take revenge on you for having called them out. And so in the same way that if you call out an Islamic Muslim, even if you are a Muslim, you're liable to have somebody come and try to lop your head off. Well, the same now is true in the sort of the way that the left eating themselves with the cancel culture. They are afraid of one another in that same way that Muslims are afraid to speak out. So once it becomes very much your identity, you're afraid to leave because you'll lose all your friends. And now you're even afraid to criticize your own.
Right. You eventually become afraid of your own shadow. Right? You're afraid of your own thoughts. Now you're stopping. You've talked about this before. You're stopping yourself from having the thought, like, maybe Trump is a better guy, better for the country. And then you go, no. Well, what am I doing? I can't be thinking that. Like
because it could only get you in trouble if you should come to the conclusion that Trump might be better for the country.
Right. You police yourself. You police your own thoughts. You police yourself. And then, and we're all worse off because of it.
And that becomes a habit of mind. That becomes the way you think about all issues. You think about it and you go, so we have an immigration issue. Let me check and see what everybody is saying about it. And then you go, okay, now, do I really agree with that? And then you just click, turn that off, and you go, yes, I must agree with that. And that becomes the habit of mind.
Right. I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be racist. And to think about that position makes me a racist. To consider that position must make me a racist, because I've been told over and over again that that's a xenophobic, racist position to have. So I won't go there. I'm just going to keep living this, quote unquote, virtuous life. And when in reality, it's really hurting all of us. It's hurting us so much. Yeah, it's something that I don't know if we can come back from.
Yeah, I don't know either, and that's why I'm interested in this Braver Angels thing. And it was really interesting that I happened to be sitting with a woman on the rooftop of the Hoxton Hotel. She invited me to come out, and she bought me lunch, and it was she's really kind of an awesome person, and we had a really nice conversation for almost 2 hours, but she says that they're having trouble with this organization, Braver Angels, which has this strict rule that they want in management, in leadership, and in the membership itself. They try to balance the numbers so that it's exactly the same number of liberals as it is conservatives. And she says it's already hard to keep that balance because there's more and more liberals coming in. Well, you might say, well, that's a good thing, because at least there's some liberals coming in. But the thing is, they tend to take over everything that's a thing. Oh, well, I can't wait to show these people how this is done. Let me get into the open conversations thing so I can monitor how open conversation is going. It's they're the den mothers of the world. They're the Karens of the world. And even probably the good ones have a little bit of a tendency to bring in more friends and stuff. Let's go over there and we'll fix the divide. We'll do this our way. And
control freaks.
Yeah,
I've heard somebody say that once.
Once or twice. That's what happened in folk music. It's what happened in folk music, and I'm seeing the same kinds of people beginning to get into Braver Angels. Like now they're doing this thing for tomorrow where it's going to be like a healing and prayer thing. It's like that sounds way too leftist. Healing. Don't use words like healing. Don't use words like unity. Like these are the kinds of words that are the left people like to use. So just try to use neutral words that don't have I wouldn't say let's have a day of patriotism either. I would say, something like,
Right.
I don't know, let's reset after the election. Let's get together and make, cool our heads out and have a nice discussion and reset, as opposed to saying it's a healing time or a time of peace or whatever, because that feels more leftist. And
Right.
in folk music, because there's hardly any money in it, and you play for free a lot, and you play in coffee houses and things like that, and there are no real career moves in folk music, the people who have all the power are the people who are willing to put on an event. So they're
Yeah.
willing to do the hard work of putting on a festival and stuff. And you can't take that from Democrats. They are willing to put in the hard work of doing things. And so everything gets taken over. All the venues get taken over by that sort of Karen woman who wants to take everything over. And then before you know it, she's only booking people who have the right kind of aspect.
Right.
And before you know it, it's just left wing all the way through.
Right at the beginning of it, they do a little speech, thank everybody, and then talk about politics or talk about some issue that they care about. And before you know it, I played with South of Ziggy. I was drumming with them, and sure enough, we're doing some show like that. You probably played. I can't think of the name of the place. It's in Pasadena now, but I'm sure you've played there. But we were playing in the back room. And the guy gets up there and does like 10 minutes on how terrible Trump is. And
is
then
that
you could
the coffee gallery backstage?
No, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant, but it has two one in the front, one in the back. I just can't think of the name of it. But he did about 10 minutes talking about how bad Trump was. It was just right around the election in 2016. He was talking about how bad Trump was. And I just sat down and I just took a look around the room, and you saw some people going, yeah. And then you saw some people just going like, come on, buddy, what are you doing? Like, you're killing us here. And yeah, that's what ends up happening. Then it turns into groupthink. It turns into whatever. But I got something.
Then it turns into group narcissism, as I know you've commented on before.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's a type of group narcissism, and it's odd. And you've also been really following up on the projection thing, the progressive projection, how they really do project on everything. And you've done a couple of videos now where you've really got really given a lot of examples. What is the thing that they accuse Trump of being more than anything else? A narcissist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they call him a narcissist, in every attack, that word is going to come up somewhere, his narcissism. And, it's them. They're seeing themselves. They keep seeing projected on him the parts of themselves that they, on some level, are ashamed of, but they can't admit it. So they project it onto somebody else and aim at the thing, but it's now projected on somebody else, so they can go ahead and hate the thing because it's no longer on them. It's on the screen of somebody else. And Trump
it's narcissism and it's racism. And and they hate them so much that they have to point it out to anybody who they can point it out to, and then hate it so much because they're at home in their nice houses going like, oh, well, that poor black guy, he just can't get ahead, he's just not that smart, that's how they think, and they don't want to think that way, so they say, oh, they're racist, someone's holding them back, it's not us, we care about people. And
I'll think more about this when I get back from my anti-charter school rally.
That's right. That's right.
I'll think more about
a guy
the
on my
racism.
Facebook, he points out this thing. He says, Joe Biden wants to make college free. Ooh, my daughter's yelling in the background. I don't know if you heard that. She's just screaming. But he says Joe Biden and the left want to make college for free, but they don't want to give people school choice before college. What does that mean? It means that the people who are going to these good schools are going to get to go to college for free, and all these people who are stuck in these bad schools aren't going to be fit for college, and they're not going to get to go to college.
That's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Marvin Michelle, a guy on Facebook, he's a black guy, and he comes up with these great little, on Facebook, he got the one where it's the big lettered ones.
Right.
He writes some really good ones, and I mean that's such a great thought, right? We're basically damning these kids that are in these bad schools, saying, sorry, you're stuck. But at the same time, we want to give you free college. It's like, well, how am I supposed to go to college? I can't read very well, right? I can't do math. How am I going to go to college? Oh, well, don't worry. Then your neighbor who grew up at down the street going to a better school, they're going to go to college for free, and that benefits all of us.
And it's
such a sham.
So obvious how they are creating a permanent underclass. And so, I mean, they brought a whole bunch of, they created sanctuary cities where people would come across a porous border and know that they were safe to get settled, because they knew that that would create the numbers of greater numbers of people that would be vying for the lower end jobs, which would make sure that all their yard boys and pool boys and everybody that they've got would still keep working for $8 an hour. And because they have, oh my God, I've worked for rich liberal people that have like teams of servants. There's always somebody working there. And they're quite nice to those people, but they don't pay them well. And they like having people to do stuff for them. And then that, of course, drives the wages down for the existing low, not college educated white and black people who are, and Hispanic people who are already in this country legally. And now they get driven, their prices get driven down. So they have to continue living in this permanent underclass where they have to fight one another for these very limited opportunities and do it with a bad education.
Yeah. And work their butt off to make ends meet, because, if you're the gardener at a house, you're trying to get every house in that neighborhood to hire you, because you want to drive to that one area and work as much as you can that day to get as much stuff done. And so these guys are busting their butt, and it's probably not worth it in a lot of ways, but they have no option because of the market.
That's right. And of course, and every time the Democrats run out of money to pay for these exorbitant pensions that were forced through by the public sector unions, every time they realize, oh my God, we're going bankrupt again because of these unfunded pensions, we better raise some taxes. So what do? They raise gas taxes. And who pays for those? The guys driving trucks around doing all the work.
That's
the working poor get hit once. And then they even, last time they did the gas tax, they even raised the cost of registering your vehicles. So I mean, these are direct taxes on the working poor.
Yeah, and another one. Sorry to cut you off. Another one is the whole electric car movement.
Yes,
right here in California, there was like your whole down payment, like $7,000 for an electric car, would be paid for by the state because they want you to drive an electric car. But that was all by raising taxes on the people who were driving these old cars around, filling their lawn mowers and their weed eaters with gas. And so that poor guy, and I don't want to say poor in a, I feel bad for him necessarily, but the guy who's working his butt off, that day laborer, he's paying for that guy to drive that new BMW, to drive that new Tesla, and so on. And people don't understand it. And another thing people don't understand about it is that Tesla is getting its energy from natural gas and oil.
Yes.
SoCal Edison is buying natural gas, burning it, turning it into electricity, and sending it to people's homes. And then you buy an electric, oven and say, oh, I'm saving the environment. It's like, no, you're not. You buy an electric car, I'm saving the environment. No, you're not.
The woman I had lunch with yesterday, what she does for a living, you'll like this. She is what she called herself a regulation hacker. And she works for the hydrocarbon industry, which she calls it. She says she uses that rather than saying she's part of the fossil fuel industry. And she splits her time between Los Angeles and where apparently she lives and enjoys her creative life here, because she's also a musician. And then she spends most of her time in North Dakota, where she's involved in the modern upgraded oil industry that is there. So, but she says the regulations are so bad that in order to get everything done, you have to hire somebody to come in and hack through all the regulations and guide you through all this stuff. And that's what she does for a living. That's
funny.
Yeah. I mean, all of the, you know, that's the free market's a wonderful thing, though. No matter how screwed up things get, somebody will come along smart enough to figure out how to make a buck on it.
Well, it's why accountants do so well, right? Because of that law. It's, you know, if you're a rich guy, you're going to have to hire some people, some lawyers, some accountants to look through all these laws that you're going to either break or that you can take advantage of to keep more of your money and so on. And I mean, that's what all the rich people do. They always talk about they're going to raise taxes on the rich. It's like, yeah, well, they'll just hire more accountants and get more loopholes.
That's what they'll do.
And the rest of us are going to foot the bill for sure.
That's right. And as it has always been, it's that's why I'm always quick to say that I don't think we're headed into any sort of real version of socialism, because once people get to Washington, I mean, look at how long it took AOC to go from hard scrabble little Hispanic bartender rising up against the establishment to, you know, once she got to her cool condo with all her fancy coffee machines and you know, fancy dress. Didn't take her very long to start living large. And you get to Washington and you realize, wow, this is kind of nice. I'm going to these nice restaurants and people are buying me stuff and people are sending me, I'm going to these places on junkets. You know, pretty soon, if you didn't like, you might have really been against capitalism when you were just, you know, when you were a social, what am I looking for? Social justice warrior, when you were like a community organizer. But boy, I mean, community organizer, who was our famous community organizer? Barack Obama, right?
Right.
You know, you think he's organizing the community around his $8 million estate on Martha's Vineyard. I doubt if he's, you know, trying to get these people together. Let's stand up for our rights here, people. I mean, government tends to siphon even the communists into some kind of money-making scheme. You know,
well, I think the ideological will still spew the nonsense, like Bernie Sanders, as they live in their, you know, as they go vacation in their vacation home on the coast.
Right.
They'll pretend, oh, there's a better way, but it's not their way. It's not what they really believe because they don't live by it.
But when it gets right down to it, when it gets right down to actually killing those industries, they realize, well, a lot of my perks, they're coming from this tax base and all these deals I'm able to do. It's like Joe Biden, the minute he wants something from the people of Pennsylvania, suddenly he's not such an anti-fracking guy after all. Maybe I overstated the anti-fracking thing. I never said that, you know.
Right.
Ignore the clips of me saying it 25 times.
Well, his family is doing well because of the oil industry. You know, that's Burisma, that's the CFCH or whatever it's called from the company that was in China. Right. Like those are all energy companies, right? It's a lot of lip service. And I definitely think when they say stuff like, oh, by 2030 or 2035, we're going to be, you know, the fossil fuel industry will be over and it'll be all renewable resource.
Not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And they can't pull it off. And I don't think they believe that. But they aren't afraid to make sweeping changes because there is money in that as well, right? You know, when you have a Solyndra or you have a green energy company and you can secure them $50 billion, then maybe when you're not president anymore, maybe you'll be worth $300 million somehow. You know what I mean? So I don't put it past them to try these things, because for a lot of those people in power, they're still going to be fine. They're still going to do some things, right?
Yeah.
They're going to still be wealthy and make money. But I want to go back to the election for a second, because today is election day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's why we're talking about a good friend of mine called me. He's not very political. He's paying attention a little bit. He's probably been a Democrat his whole life, but not really an active person and not really thought a lot about it. He said, what do you think is going to happen? I saw some people on this side of the street where Biden supporters, on this side of the street where Trump supporters are yelling at each other. And he's like, it was crazy, man. He's like, what do you think is going to happen? I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, the way I see it is I would prefer Biden to win. So maybe the craziness calms down a little bit, but I would prefer Trump to run things.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. So he's a Democrat, but a non-thinking Democrat in that sense. I mean, he's a smart guy. Don't get me wrong. He's not a stupid guy or anything. I'm not saying that, but that's how he sees it.
Well,
Trump is running things pretty well, but the craziness is coming from Democrats. Can we stop that somehow?
Well, right. It's like if you could have a bus driver that's your favorite bus driver, and you think they're the most safe bus driver, but for some reason, there's people that live on both sides of the bus route who really, really hate this bus driver. And every time he drives you anywhere, bullets fly through the windows because for some reason, those people hate this bus driver, even though he's a really good bus driver. After a while, you might be the kind of guy that goes, God, we really love Ernie. He's our favorite bus driver. He's so safe and everything, but I might get hit by a bullet or we might get run off the road because other people hate Ernie. So Ernie eventually loses his job because people are so mean to Ernie. And we have that situation now where Trump's not doing anything wrong driving the bus, but it's so much chaos surrounding it, and there's so many bullets flying constantly that I think a lot of people are saying, actually he's done a really good job, but I'm just not sure I can take another 4 years of this havoc. And
I think that's part of their plan. Part of the left's plan is to create so much chaos that we were willing to just give up on Trump.
Just to make it stop. Please make it stop. And the way you're going to be able to make it stop is if Trump's not there. And they are pretty much threatening. And I wish I had been in the sort of national dialogue in the last few weeks when everybody's been talking about the peaceful transition of power, because I would have said, well, why are we not talking about the peaceful continuance of power? When we go back to the peaceful transference of power when Trump came in, the Obama administration was fine in that aspect. They got together, they had a nice talk. You can't blame the Obama administration. But the rank and file Democrats did not peacefully accept Donald Trump. Even though Hillary went out there and she said he won the election, he deserves the right to govern. She said that. And more power to her. Everybody ignored her. Everybody ignored her and went into straight hatred mode. They've stayed there in their addictive crack pipe hatred mode all through this thing. And so somebody should be saying to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, okay, we've talked a lot about the peaceful transference of power, and a lot of us here on the left, we have some doubts whether Trump will peacefully transfer the power, but suppose he wins. Can you, Joe Biden, can you, Kamala Harris, guarantee for us the peaceful continuance of power? Can you? Nobody's asked that question that I've seen, and that's the meaningful question, because these are the people who are the demonstrator class. They're the activist class. They're the rioter class. That doesn't happen on the other side.
I would say something though. I think where you see that a little bit is Hillary went out and said that, and Obama seemed courteous, but they knew they had tried to set Trump up for Russian collusion, and that continued for 2.5 years.
Good point.
Right? So behind the scenes, they stood out front and said something, but behind the scenes, they weren't so easy on. I mean, Joe Biden had some back channels to Ukraine saying, this new guy, you got to watch him, blah, blah, blah. I'm not so sure that it was a peaceful transition then. On the outside, they
right.
was what Democrats
ceremonially it was.
Right, ceremonially
they'd already filled they'd filled the road with landmines already.
That's right. I mean, we now know beyond a reasonable doubt, like I've said, when everybody's talked about on our side, they knew for 2.5 years doing the Mueller investigation that there was no collusion. They knew it from day one. They did a 2.5-year investigation trying to get something on Trump. Everybody in the media, the walls are closing in. He's going to resign, blah, blah, blah. And it was just all fake.
It's been a coup basically since 2017. And it's
so I don't think it was a peaceful transition of power. They like I said, they gave it the lip service. They're good at that part of it. but they
that's
set
what
him up.
that's what I meant, and that's the part that they're wondering about Trump is, will he actually refuse to, like, leave the White House? That's what they've been actually talking about.
It's
They've been
so
talking
crazy.
about the ceremonial level of it, because I don't think anybody thinks that Trump would leave landmines throughout the government to destroy the incoming presidency of Joe Biden. That's the one thing about Donald Trump that I think is interesting. If he wins, there's this idea that that he'll be like Trump unleashed. And a lot of people think, man, he's really going to, kick ass on every Democrat around because he won't have an election out in front of him anymore. But the thing about Donald Trump is he's not a vengeful man. He's got a big ego. He likes himself a lot. He is a counterpuncher. But pretty much immediately when somebody stops punching him, he stops punching back. Have you heard him ever say an unkind word to any of the people who were going at him during the primaries? That he gave them all names and things, but they were going at him pretty hard too. And he just brought him right in as soon as he possibly could. And if they were willing to join with him, he was willing to forgive and forget immediately and permanently. And he's just not a vengeful man. So the sort of thing that we'll see in terms of Trump unleashed will probably be more AG Barr unleashed and Trump business as usual, basically. And I don't mean status quo. I mean business as usual, which is going through all, and a lot of people, left wingers, they're afraid of deregulation. But what they don't understand is that all throughout all these industries, there's all these regulations that don't apply anymore because technology has changed and become cleaner. So there's all these regs and red tape that hoops people have to jump through that really don't apply anymore because progress has come along, and now new types of machinery don't need to be monitored in the same way old types of machinery did, and safety rules and things like that. There's lots of stuff that it just sits there on the books. So you get rid of all that deregulation, and it makes it a lot easier to get things done. And it doesn't really hurt the environment necessarily. But
well, I think the right and the left both miss this on Trump, where the right says, like you're talking about, he'll be unleashed. He'll be able to really do this stuff. And then the left will say, oh, if he wins again, this is when he becomes Hitler.
Finally.
This is what he, and I think they both get it wrong. Trump is a business guy.
Right.
He is about getting some stuff done. And you don't get stuff done if you're not willing to work with someone, even if that person is against you, even if that person openly, I mean, he's worked with Pelosi a lot, and Pelosi's out there calling him, everything in the book, and, calling our police forces stormtroopers. That makes him Darth Vader. You know what I mean? Like they're out there saying these things, but then he will work with them. And if she'll come in and say, well, I think this is a good idea, he'll say, well, let's talk about it. Like, we can leave all that stuff outside right now because he wants to get stuff done.
Well, I think, a thought popped into my head when you were talking about how, as a businessman, how you move forward in order to get things done. And I think politics is one of the few businesses where you actually have to destroy your competition. The way you win in the hotel business or the golf or the golf course business, to go use the analogy around Trump's own types of holdings, the only way you can compete against other golf resorts and other hotels and other big buildings is to serve the client better. The only way you can get ahead is you create a better golfing experience than the other golf course down the road or in the next county, right? People are going to come there because you are serving them. Only in politics. So you don't go and bomb the other golf course. You don't, throw Agent Orange on their greens, from an airplane. You don't destroy them. What you do is focus on your customers and make them feel more welcome, give them a better experience. And that's how you win. So competition in business is cooperation. It's just cooperation with your client. And But in politics, it's about the only place that you can win anything by destroying the other side. So Trump has had to, in order to get into politics, he's had to be sort of destructive to the people he was running against for a while. But that's not really his natural habitat. His natural habitat, he's really in the service industry. So he's been all along remembering to serve his clientele, which is the American people. And that is the businessman way of doing it. Okay, who got me here? Who am I working for? Who are the people who have to keep doing business with me, my presidency being my business? Well, it's the people who voted for me. So I better make sure that they are getting the things that I promised to them.
Right. And I think it's
the
not
way
just
politicians think, who are just politicians.
Yeah, I think it's not just the people who voted for him. It's just as many people as he can get things done for, because that is his like if you're if I have a candy shop and I have my regulars, I don't just stop there. Like, I only want to make the experience good for the regulars. I want to attract more and more people to have a good experience. And that's what he's doing.
Oh, and I truly think he does see everybody who's out there as his people, as the American people. He's I think he doesn't just say, oh, they're the ones who already eat at my ice cream shop, because you cannot grow unless you expand.
Right. And it's why you got, I don't know, these rappers names, Lil Wayne, Lil Pump, Ice Cube, or whoever. You got these people out there that are going, you know what? This guy's willing to talk to us. This guy's willing to work with us. Why would he? If he's a racist, why would he work with them? Okay, let's throw the racism aside for a second. He worked with them because they're people, more people he's trying to get things done for.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. He's trying to increase his customer base, if we want to look at it as a business.
Yeah, and look at the ones in the black world, the world of black entertainment, who have come to his side more. They are the entrepreneurs, because Ice Cube's an entrepreneur. So is Kanye. So is who's the other one? 50 Cent. These guys are all entrepreneurs. And so they understand Donald Trump, because these guys, like Sean Combs did and like Jay-Z did, these people understand business. They understand building a brand. Why do they go into clothing that they can put their name on? They're all acting like little Donald Trumps. So that, he's been their role model right along. You put Kanye on everything, or whatever his brand is. It's on all of his clothing, that, without even having to ask, and so they understand branding. They understand self-promotion. They understand how boasting ties in with being an alpha male, which ties in with being a leader, which ties into being a successful entrepreneur. They understand Trump in a way that no white college professor ever can. Because they are in the job of not branding themselves. They get into college, and every time you say something as a professor, you have to say where you got the idea, because it's not about originality. It's about everything but originality. It's about establishing the provenance of the idea you just said by quoting who said it before you, right? And that's how it is in academia. But
the only valid point is something that someone else made before you that you're now breaking down or studying or learning from.
And I think what we're looking at too in the working classes now is far more of them are also now entrepreneurial. This might be one of the reasons that we're seeing Hispanics coming in a little bit more. They're entrepreneurs. Those guys driving around in the trucks, every one of those guys is trying to build a business. And a lot of black people are building businesses. A lot of people now work in the gig economy and things like that, where they're working for a startup. They understand entrepreneurship a lot better than they used to, and how the kinds of struggles that come. They hear other entrepreneurs talking about, God, these regulations are killing me. They start connecting the dots. Well, the Democrats are the regulation people, and the Republicans are the get rid of the regulations people. Maybe there's a few racists over there, but they're not trying to regulate my ass half to death. So I think there might be, something right inside the working world that understands Trump in the same way he understands them. And
Well, the indoctrination, when you start to break it down, you wonder if the indoctrination is more powerful than the experience, right? Yesterday, Larry Elder had a caller call in, and he said, systemic racism is everywhere. It's so bad out here and whatever. It's a black guy. And he's like, let me ask you, Larry's like, let me ask you, how old are you? He said, 54. He said, did you go to high school? He's like, yeah. Did you finish? He's like, man, of course I finished. And he says, okay, did you go to college? He's like, I did. He's like, well, what'd you study? He's like, I got a business degree. He's like, okay, now, did you get a job after that? And he's like, yeah, I started a business. And he's like, do you still have it? He's like, yeah, I've had the business now for 25 years. And he says, where did the systemic racism happen to stop you from doing anything?
exactly.
Right? And the guy's like, it's not about me. It's like, oh, so you're so great and you're so smart and you're so awesome that you were able to overcome this big problem. No, this guy still believes that he's being held back somehow. He maybe his business, if it's worth, $100,000, maybe let's say the guy makes $80,000 a year. If it wasn't for systemic racism, he'd be making $2 million a year or something. That's kind of what this indoctrination. Maybe
Right.
Jay-Z could own a whole NBA franchise instead of own half of one, or maybe P. Diddy could buy a football team if it wasn't for racism.
Right.
Right.
And it appeals to people's better angels of their nature just enough that somebody like Colin Kaepernick will look at the situation and will go, well, yes, I was deserted by my black father, and white people adopted me and they raised me, and I had every opportunity, and my white coach and my white teachers, they all backed me up. She let me stay, late to finish my homework because I was at practice, and all these white people came in to bat for me. But all the rest of the black people are getting screwed over. So it falls to me, a privileged black person,
Mm-hmm.
to stand up for the people who don't have any privilege. And so if you really haven't had time to grow up and connect all these dots, and you're 26, 27 years old, and you've been getting an awful lot of this stuff through college and just through your girlfriend and the media and stuff like that, it's easy to go off that deep end. And because you think it's not about me. I'm sure Colin Kaepernick never thought, oh, it's my racism issue. It's I'm speaking for all the others. That's
Mm-hmm.
the way he was framing it.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it's just like my son, he's now a super left-winger guy, but he's in that period of time. He's been in college for 10 years. It finally got him. And if it looks like he's going into academia for his life, and
Oh.
I may never be able to discuss politics with him again, but hopefully he will mature to the place where he begins to connect all these dots. I had said the other day that even if there was one dot, just the one, Democrats would not connect it, even if there was just the one dot. So there is a real thought bubble over there that sort of forbids thought. And
Right.
and so it's hard. It really is very hard. And if we, going back to what you asked earlier, is it too late? I would like to think that it's not. Do you have an off the cuff? Do you think Trump's going to pull it off? Because I think it's going to be a squeaker, and I can't tell which way.
Yeah. I think if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins. I feel like that's like, to me, that's now the bird in the cave, or whatever the saying is, right? That'll show how important the fossil fuel issue is, and then that reverberates around several places around the state. So I think if he can win Pennsylvania, he's going to win. And it's weird, a squeaker in the Electoral College can be squeaking by in 5 states and then being a solid win in the Electoral College. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to think he's going to pull it off. But yeah, it's just like it was in 2016. It's going to feel surprising if he wins, just because of we're just, the drum beat is just on us nonstop. Biden's up 7, Biden's up 8, Biden's up 10. You know, Trump is losing with suburban women. Trump is losing with this group and that group and so on. But on the ground in my daily life, I see more people open to Trump now than I feel like I did 4 years ago.
Me too. You know, I have this friend down at the Quickie Mart down the street where I go to get my my big gulp filled, and she and I are very good friends. And she's Hispanic, and you know, she's an immigrant from Mexico. And she used to kid me, you know, in 2017 when the whole immigration thing was really high up on things. She'd say like, "What is that president of yours doing now?" You know, she would always call him my president. You know, and I'd say, "Hey, you know, he doesn't call me," but so and then bit by bit that sort of turned into almost a little bit of a nasty tone in her voice, turned into a more jokey tone over time. And now we've gone through the thing where her daughter has become sort of an Antifa, Black Lives Matter thing. So during the whole trip of 2020, she'd go, "Oh, that daughter of mine, you know, now she thinks everybody's a racist." And she goes, and I had to tell her, "You think Dave's a racist?" And she, "Well, not Dave, but you know, systemic racism." And she can't get her daughter to talk any sense. And now she complains to me more about her radicalized daughter than she does about Donald Trump. So this is the kind of thing that changes over time when you realize, well, he didn't round people up into things, and once they got better border enforcement, he hasn't come and tried that they aren't making raids on neighborhoods and deporting anybody. He hasn't been this kind of totalitarian guy that they thought he would become because they were getting their news from Telemundo. And so I think it has shifted. I think we're going to see a lot more of the Hispanic vote, male and female, and certainly more of the Black male vote than we had anticipated. So I think that's probably the best we can do. I wanted to ask one more thing to you and also sort of address our audience. And I'm not sure that everybody appreciates how much the Donald Trump presidency had to do with blue collar logic being inspired to start what we did. And it was March of 2017 that you and I first got together and put our first videos up on Facebook. So we didn't get over to YouTube until July of 2018, late July 2018, if I'm getting my numbers right. But we started doing this we weren't making any money at all. It wasn't a professional plan on any part. We were just coming in and largely to defend Trump and largely to kind of explain why we thought Trump made sense and to talk about a lot of the issues that were in the air because Trump brought those issues into the dialogue at that moment. And I was wondering what happens if Trump goes away? Does blue collar logic go away? Are we firmly enough established here that that we'll have a meaningful life of this channel if Donald Trump disappears?
I have to think so, because the issues don't go away, right? So if the issues don't go away, then there's more dialogue that needs to be had, and maybe even more important dialogue in some instances. So I don't think so. I'm in it for the long haul. You know what I mean?
Boy, the idea of making a bunch of videos about Joe Biden, doesn't that make you like weary?
Oh, God.
Do I have to talk about Joe Biden?
I'm so excited. I'm so happy that the election is today, because I'm so tired of making Joe Biden videos.
Oh, me too.
I think once it won't be Joe Biden videos as much, because we won't have to talk about the man as much as the issues. Because when we started, it wasn't as much about Trump as going, you know what, I'm going to explain why capitalism isn't racism,
right,
or isn't racist. I'm going to explain why low taxes actually gives us more revenue and gives more people money to spend and more revenue in the government. I'm going to explain these kind of things, right? And that's kind of how it started. And then as we've gotten closer to the election, it's been more and more like straight up, what happened, what somebody said. Let me take on what Joe Biden said. Let me take on what Kamala Harris said. Let me, did you see this video? Let's talk about this video that we saw of this happening. And
but with Trump he was always at the center of the controversy, and that's why everybody in America would be suddenly talking about, for instance, one of the first big videos that I had, I was driving up north at the time. It was that one that I made about, and this is before YouTube, the one about did Trump just give a Christmas gift to the rich? And I don't think we ever moved that over to YouTube, but it got like 300,000 views on Facebook or something like that, or more, because I went to explain why when you lower taxes for everybody, people who were paying $50,000 a year in taxes, the amount of money they save is going to be greater than the person who's only been paying $1,000 a year. So the greatest actual amount of money will, of course, be saved by rich people, but the ratio by which they're saving it is not greater. And so, you know, but there was a reason to explain that, because everybody, in order to hurt Trump, was misconstruing how it's done. So if Joe Biden's in, there's going to be a lot of people who are not talking about any of these issues. They won't. But
it's going to be the opposite. But isn't it going to be the opposite? He's going to raise taxes, and we're going to say, look, here's why it's not just raising taxes on the rich, it's raising taxes on all of us.
Well, you'll love it, because you always want to do economics videos anyway. You're like the Thomas Sowell of this channel.
I'm like the broke down poor Thomas Sowell that almost gets it.
Like, oh God, Jason's explaining how economics works again. Oh
yeah.
But I don't know. You've gotten awfully good at what you do, and I just hope that they're. I did want to end on a. I think it's probably time we wrap this up, but I did want to end on this one optimistic thought, that I don't think that that politics will ever go back from Donald Trump in this way. The Republican Party will never want to be without the energy of a Donald Trump campaign. So if Donald Trump does get squeezed out, there's going to be every reason, I think, for him to just keep giving rallies, to just keep doing rallies. People will host him to come do rallies, and they will be governors, and they will be people in all the red states, and he'll go around. And then by and by, come 2 more years from now, there's going to be a lot of people up for there's going to be a lot of governors that are running again. Gavin Newsom, for instance. There's going to be a lot of Republicans out to unseat a lot of these Democratic governors who created the Trump recession, the COVID recession, right? And so I think Donald Trump is going to be on the campaign trail like crazy, even when he's out of office, if he is out of office. I don't think he's ever going away. The Republicans aren't going to want to lose that sort of vibrant energy that he brought to the Republican Party that hadn't been there in a long time, or maybe ever. And he's going to have every reason to want to counterpunch a few Democrats while he's got a chance before he leaves the public eye.
Well, what if he loses this election? Does he run in 2024?
Well, if he loses, who?
Trump.
Well, he can't.
Why not? You're allowed 2 terms.
If he loses this election.
If he loses this election.
He loses this election.
And he's still got all the energy, and Biden and the economy crashes and so on. Does Trump go, you know what? Let's do this again.
Really? I'll only be as old as Joe is now.
That's right. And he's got the energy, maybe. We'll see. That's just an interesting thought.
Wow,
you know?
That's a great thought. And that's a great thought to end on. But I think that I think hopefully you can agree that we have not seen the last of Donald Trump, even if he doesn't squeak out a victory tomorrow. And I know a lot of you guys out there in blue collar logic land think there's going to be a giant red wave, but that would be wonderful.
Hope so.
But but we do know that Michael Moore has come out in the last few days, and he said, he said very frankly what everybody knows is true, that Donald Trump always gets undercounted. So he said, whatever you think the lead is, whatever you think Donald Trump's lead is, cut it in half. That's what he said. So if you think he's got a lead, if you think he's got an 8-point lead, and he also said he was leading by 17, 18 points. He was double digit all over the place, and now he's all 6, 7. So now I looked yesterday at an amalgamation of all the battleground states. Actually, this is this morning. And if you put all the battleground states together, the primary must-win states, put them together, Biden has a 4-point lead. Cut that in half. Biden has a 2-point lead, and that's within the margin of error.
Yeah, easily.
So I don't see the red landslide coming, but
there ain't no blue wave. There ain't no blue wave coming.
But we're within striking distance, and he did it before, and
yeah,
there's the things that we're talking about with the working class coming out and all the silent Trump voters. I mean, we know for certain there's an awful lot of silent Trump voters out there, and they are going to vote today.
I get a lot of comments that a lot of people are pretty confident, and it's hard to feel confident. But like I said, and we should end this because I got to run. But
yeah,
on one hand, I feel like, oh, I don't know. And on the other hand, I go, how can Trump not win all 50 states? It's so crazy. If you're paying attention at all, how could you possibly vote for Democrats?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It's mysterious. But the bubbles that we are all in, that social media has crafted for us, it's hard to see outside of our own bubbles sometimes. So I'm very cautious about getting overconfident. I know I'm going, right when we finish this, I'm going to go vote myself. So even though, well, California, I could definitely cause a red wave here if I vote.
That's right.
It's I'll piss it away, but all I think is I'll just go. I'm going to go cancel Pat Nason's vote today.
If you're watching, Pat,
that's an inside joke here. All right, guys. Well, we love you out there in Blue Collar Logic Land, and Jason's got to go to get on with his day. And I will later this week. I'm heading out to the desert for a while, and I'll make a couple of videos from out there. And we'll whatever happens, hopefully we'll be celebrating. And every time we run into one of you guys, we'll give you manly. Very manly hugs. Very extremely manly, though.
Or we'll just, fist bump because we're not allowed to touch here in California.
Oh, that's right. If it's in California. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for allowing us this forum, and hope everything's good and that your candidate wins.
All right. See you, Dave. See you guys.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.